right. Welcome to episode 22 of PTBOCanada Live with Mike Judson. I'm Mike Judson. And as usual, we like to get some things out of the way first, and that would be our wonderful sponsorship brought to you by, the sponsorship's not brought to you by the show, is brought to you by our sponsor, and sponsoring the show is Ben Van Veen Realty. And we talk about Ben quite a bit here, and you know what? You're seeing his signs popping up all over the Peterborough area. He is a talented realtor, and he certainly likes to take care of you. I know, you know what? I had my house sold before. It was before I knew about Ben. I probably would have gone with Ben had I known about him before, but you know what? It can be a hassle selling your house. It was actually pretty easy for me, but Ben certainly makes things really easy as well. He's the kind of guy that where if you need to fix up some stuff around the house to make it more attractive rather on the market, then he'll actually give you the money that you need to fix up the house, to get more money for your house, and then you pay him back later. He's just one of those great fellas. So once again, this podcast is brought to you by Ben Van Veen Realty. You can find him at benvanveen.realtor. That's online. BenVanVeen.realtor. Okay, joining me on today's show is actually no one. And I'm sorry that this is coming out late. You know, I've been targeting to get this out either Sunday night or Monday morning. This week was a bit of a cluster. You know what? I was trying to get Stu Harrison, the wonderful Stu Harrison, who's over at the Chamber of Commerce there. He also does Stu's News on Czechs Television. He's a man about town. He knows a lot about business, and I was trying to get him on the show because apparently he's got some pretty interesting stories about his upbringing, and we share something in common now that we never did before. I'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, I was trying to find some time for Stu to come by and do the podcast so I could have it up, and we couldn't agree to times, and days and hours were ticking away. And then finally we came to the agreement that, hey, we couldn't actually get anything done, and that it wouldn't happen this weekend. And then I was trying to get someone else to do it. And then I went to the City show on Friday, and, probably had a little bit too much fun. Saturday wasn't really in the mood for anything, but my wife dragged me into being into the mood of going on a hike, and then eventually coming back home and doing all the yard work. And so no podcast got done then. And then Sunday was Father's Day, and it's my first Father's Day, so I didn't get around to doing a podcast then. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to record this on my own on Monday, and then, everything will be fine. And then, of course, we had all that severe weather crop up on Monday, and I was out storm chasing Monday night down in Port Hope until 3:30 in the morning with Jay Callahan and Tim Rollwagon, a couple of storm guys. You should check them out on Twitter. One is Caltech79, and the other guy is Rollwags, or Trollwags. Yeah, Trollwags. Check them out if you like storm updates. But yeah, so I didn't get around to it last night. So here I am at around, 12:30 at night on a Tuesday after my shift at Czechs, sitting in my garage by myself in front of a microphone. And I think this is the first time I've done this style of podcast by myself before. Usually, I don't know, it's like interviewing someone, because otherwise you're awkward sitting in a garage by yourself at 12:30 at night. So, but here I am, and once again, that's why it's late. I don't expect you to forgive me, so you can hold that grudge over my head for a long time. But you know what? I figured we might as well get a podcast done either way. And you know what? I guess I haven't interviewed myself, so I guess I'll fill you in on what's been going on with me lately. As I mentioned, we had all those storms on Monday, and all sorts of like controversy being stirred up online with different outlets. You got Environment Canada, you got your weather networks, and then if you go on Twitter and Facebook, you have Ontario Tornado Watch. And you know what? You get people who are calling out all these different outlets saying, you didn't get the warning out soon enough, and you guys are incompetent, and we're the best, and this and that. And a lot of people have been asking me over the last little while, who should we trust? Who should we be watching? And my advice to most people is learn how to do it yourself. But you know what? For me, it's always been, trust Environment Canada, trust the professionals, trust the meteorologists, trust the people who have gone to school for years and years to do this. They send out warnings promptly, and you should always be online. Learn how to read radar. That's another thing I want to talk about. Sunday, Father's Day. I had a good time on Father's Day. It was my first one. My son Tommy is 8 months old. He bought me a Captain Beefheart record. I don't know where the hell he got the money for that, and I don't know if I approve, considering the price of diapers these days. He probably could have been investing in something a little more practical, but either way, he got me a Captain Beefheart record, and then my old man came up from Toronto with my mom, and the family got together, and we had a really nice kind of, what do you call it, like a dinner or a dunch? It's like in between lunch and dinner. I think I like dunch. So we had a big fat dunch out on the back patio at my house, and we had a nice salmon. My dad brought this cut of salmon. It was absolutely gorgeous, beautiful side of salmon. And threw that onto the barbecue, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of maple syrup, and then what else did we have? We had corn. And I'm used to preparing corn, maybe it's the old-fashioned way. Throw it in some foil, a little bit of butter or something, and let it roast up. Then take it off and then crisp it up a little bit on the barbecue, and it's served. But my mom introduced me to this new way of doing corn, which I thought was kind of cool. It's just oil. Like vegetable oil, maybe not, probably olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. My parents like their fancy foods, and then mixed in with some herbs, and it was really good. It was very nice. I think they used some rosemary and some other things, maybe some thyme in there, and that, and then a homemade coleslaw. It was very nice. So that's how we spent Father's Day, and with the family and hanging out. It was a very, very nice day. But one of the things that was going to happen on Father's Day, or at least I forecasted on Friday, was that it was supposed to rain, and that there was the chance of a thunderstorm. And there was a chance of thunderstorm, and we did get a little bit of rain, and it was very humid. There was lots of energy, but it just turned out on Sunday that all of those storms ended up going to eastern Ontario, so we really didn't see much in the Peterborough area. And I was talking, actually, I wrapped up Father's Day at the Kawartha Dairy, getting a couple scoops of ice cream, and this guy in line comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, I was talking to the manager at the golf course today." And I know exactly where he's going with this. And he's like, "Yeah, he said a lot of people canceled out on golf because you told them it was going to rain." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, I mean, that happens." There was a chance of showers on Friday, and I don't do a newscast on Saturday or Sunday, so I wasn't able to update. And my advice to everyone, and advice to all those golfers out there, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, learn how to read the radar, learn how to check your forecast. Even on that day, Environment Canada was still calling for a chance of thunderstorms and a chance of showers. And you know what? Sometimes these things don't pan out. Sometimes nature has other ideas as to what's going to happen. And sometimes it comes down to just a few elements that can steer something out of our area. And you know what? It happens every once in a while. But it shouldn't stop you from going outside. You should be able to look at your radar, see what's going on, and keep moving. But either way, that was Father's Day, and you know what? I'm sick and tired of talking about weather. I do it all the time. So we're going to move on to something more interesting, at least interesting to me. Recently, I just got my first motorcycle. That's right. I said a motorcycle. You can call me Michael Motorcycle from now on. And that's the thing I have in common with Stu Harrison now. So for years and years and years, one of my best friends, my buddy Jamie, who's like a Red Seal motorcycle mechanic now. Jamie has always ridden a motorcycle. You know, he started fixing up these old Hondas and all these other things. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I am not really a mechanically inclined person. I'm not a car guy. And, you know, I'm not even a motorcycle guy at this point. I don't know. I was never really into the culture. I'm not with those guys who want to go hang out at Tim Hortons or Coffee Time or wherever the hell it is and sit there and rev their engines and play dance music. Not really my scene. I'm not really into that. But a couple years ago, my friend from Nova Scotia, who's a bit of, I guess you could call him a free spirit. He's a musician. He's had a few jobs in his life, but he was blowing through town. He was just coming back from the oil rigs. And so I guess he had a pocket full of money, and he decided, you know what? And this is April. He said, I want to buy a motorcycle. and my buddy Jamie was visiting, and I had always hated the motorcycles, mainly the guys whose bikes are really loud. And I'm sitting on a patio somewhere enjoying lunch or having a cocktail with a friend, and like 4 of these idiots go by on their bikes, and they're souped up and or holes in their mufflers, whatever the hell they do, and these things are so loud. You have to stop your conversation and look at the idiots, see where the sound is coming from. And I hate those kinds of guys. So it always rubbed me the wrong way with bikers and the way that they would do that. My motorcycle is not loud like that, and I don't rev my engine at stoplights to get people to look at me. But aside from that, my buddy Mike from Nova Scotia, the musician, just came in from the oil rigs, had some money. It's April. It's cold. There's snow. He turns to my buddy Jamie. He's like, I want to buy a motorcycle, and I want to ride it back to Nova Scotia from Peterborough. And yeah, he's maybe a little idealistic, but you know what? He went, he bought the bike, got his license. I think it was just an M1 license, so it was probably totally illegal what he was doing. And then they rode to Peterborough to stay with me for a couple days before he took off to go back to Halifax. So they come to my house, and he's got this little bike, this little Honda, and my buddy Jamie says, Mike, why don't you just try give it a ride? Just get on it. I'll coach you how to get into gear or whatever and go for a little ride. So they coaxed me into it. I put on the helmet and got on this little bike, and he taught me how to get into first gear, which is not hard at all. It was clicking up into second. That was a little interesting. But I managed to get myself into gear, and then I went putting around the neighborhood I used to live in, which was up by the hospital, and literally all on side streets. I didn't really go anywhere, and just kind of putt around. And, I did it for maybe half an hour or so, and I don't know, I really liked it. So I thought it was kind of cool, and it felt cool. I really liked the dynamics of turning and leaning, and I like the feeling of when you throw on that throttle and you can just feel the power under your ass just send you careening forward, and in a controlled way, hopefully. And I thought, you know what? And I don't know. At the time, I was like, okay, that's cool. It was a bit of an adrenaline rush. And then we just went on about our business. And then my friend Mike rode through the sleet and snow for days getting back to Halifax and made it. And he was fine. I was very surprised by that. But I guess it kind of sit in my head for a while that I wanted to get a motorbike. And I was thinking about it. And then my dad ended up having this bike that he didn't need anymore. And I ended up saying, you know what, why don't I take it off your hands? So I got the bike in the fall. It's an 82 Kawasaki 440 LTD. It's a small bike for me because I'm like 6'2.5", almost 6'3", and about 240 pounds. So I look a little big on this bike, but I've been told it's a good starter bike. And so I've been driving this thing around. Well, I had to get my license first. And you know what? If you ever get a motorcycle license, let me tell you the stupidest thing that this province does. It's my only gripe about it is that you go and you write your M1. And I had no idea that you have to write your G1 at the same time that you write your N1. So I got a surprise driving test in there as well. Past that. And then they make you have a mandatory 60-day wait period before you can get your M2. During that 60-day wait period, you're not allowed driving at night. You can't drive before dawn, and you're not allowed on the highway, and you can't have passengers and blah, 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 restrictions, blah, 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 blah. It sucks. Oh, worst time ever. So they make you wait the 60-day wait period. In between the wait period, I go to Fleming College and I get my exit course, my M2 exit. So that means you start on Friday, you finish on Sunday. It's a full weekend course. You pass the test on Sunday, you have your M2. Now, I had this certificate that says I'm an M2 certified motorcycle rider. I'm Michael Motorcycle in the flesh at this point. And the funny thing is that you can't actually, I don't actually have my M2. I can't ride. The government won't give me the M2, even though I am now classified and passed, until that 60-day wait period is over. That 60-day wait period is supposed to give you practice time before you get your M2 so that you're comfortable going on highways and whatnot. But my insurance company and no other insurance company would insure me with just an M1, unless they wanted to charge me like $2,000. Of course, with the M2 certificate, it's dramatically less. It's like $700 a month, a year. So I had to sit around this whole 60-day waiting period with cobwebs growing on my bike, not allowed to ride it. And then all of a sudden I get my M2 and I'm out on the streets and it's like I'm fresh again. But either way, it's all over. I've had my license for the last couple of weeks now. I've been bombing around Peterborough. If you see a man who looks too large to be riding a bike very nervously around town, that is probably me. I have a very childlike horn on the bike, so if you get in my way, you're going to hear meep, meep. Meep, meep. Oh, excuse me. Please get out of my way. I'm on this pretty little bike. And that'll be me. But that's what I have in common with Stu Harrison, who's actually a real kind of motorcycle rider. He's been riding for a while. And part of the reason why I can't get the podcast done with him this week is that he's gone on like a 9 or 10 day bike trip down to something that he said, I think with like a Blue Ridge or something, probably near the Carolinas or something in the east coast of the States, going on a big bike trip with all his bike buddies, or maybe just by himself, I don't know. But he's got a fancy BMW bike with like big boxes and stuff that you can carry it on. And maybe I'd like to move down that way, but yeah, and get a bike like that one day. But I'm just going to try and not kill myself for the time being. But yeah, so now I'm Motorcycle Mike, and I think my coworkers probably think I'm a bit of a douchebag. I show up every day with the helmet, hair on, and leather jacket and a bike. But you know what? I really like it, and I think it's kind of cool. At night after work, I like to drive out into the country and just kind of, you know, like stop the bike and get off and, you know, just listen to some quiet for a little while. And, you know, I think it's pretty cool. I took it down to Toronto, almost killed myself a million times, drove back on the Sunday night, all on side highways like Highway 7, and it was fog and rain, probably the dumbest thing I could have done. And so I've got some stupidity on this thing out of the way, and that's what I'm going to plan on doing. Other things that I plan on doing is, yeah, I'm trying to think, well, what am I up to lately? Not a whole heck of a lot. I mean, the parenting thing's taken my life in a whole new direction. At first, you know, I don't know if it's not that I didn't like it at first. You know, it was just adjusting to not living the same life that you used to live, but still getting little flashes of it. My wife and I have a very cool deal. And I think a lot of parents do this too, but you know, we give ourselves time out to go with our friends and still go out at night and be social and go have some fun and, you know, go away for a weekend. So I'll take the boy and she can go out and do some stuff, and then I'll do the same and she'll do the same for me. And that's how I got to go see the City at show on Friday. But it's also the reason why on Saturday I suffered throughout the entire day, being very sick. But yeah, speaking of the City, it's congratulations to them. For 4 years, they've been performing, I guess, the third Friday of the month, one Friday of the month, for 4 years at the Gordon Best. That's a pretty good run. I can't remember what they call that. It's almost like a residency. I guess they've had a 4-year residency at the Gordon Best Theater, and all the City it's there. We're having a good time on Friday. They brought me up on stage. I pretended to be a table, and some girl sat on top of me. Andrew Root picked her up and threw her violently on the floor, and everyone had a gasp, and then shortly after, a very good laugh. But the City has been a cool thing for me lately. Ever since, I guess, it was back in February, PTBOCanada, Neil Morton, started sponsoring the City at shows, and in a way, just kind of drumming up, you know, attention and, you know, send them out, I guess putting them on the website, tweeting about it, that sort of thing. And so they invited us to a show to come check it out. So we went down to the show, and they pulled me up to do this game where I had to, with Ken Gibb, who's one of the Cityots, we had to do a scene where we were speaking in Russian. Neither of us could speak Russian, and I believe my fake Russian accent was probably offensive to anyone that's Russian, but I tried my best to make it authentic. And then, so it's this fake conversation we're having, and then two guys are on the side with a microphone, and they're translating what we say. So we played that game, and I had a lot of fun doing it. And then they invited me to be a special guest, which involves like being there for the entire show. And man, did that back in February, and I was so nervous going into doing that. Like, I can't even it's weird because with the weatherman, I guess I know what I'm going to say when I'm going to do weather. It's improv in a way that I don't have a prompter, but I've studied the forecast. I know what it's going to do, and I know how I'm going to describe it. And you get your lingo and all that sort of thing. And sometimes you fall into some traps. I try and get rid of those, but sometimes it just happens where you end up saying things in a similar way every time. But at the same time, when I was trying to prepare to do improv with the city, that was just nerve-wracking because you have no idea what's going to happen. Plus, you have to make it entertaining and funny. You're standing up on a stage with bright lights in front of you, and there's just a crowd of people, like 150 people or 200 people, however many the Gordon Best fits. And, you know a few of them, but, I don't know anyone in that crowd. And I guess it was weird for me because I knew everyone knew who I was in some vague manner because I work at Checks and whatever. So there I am standing there on the stage, and we played all these games, and I had a really, really good time. And I think there was a little piece of me deep inside that told me beforehand that I was going to enjoy it as long as I just let myself go. And the city certainly didn't help me in preparation. I think Ray Henderson was teasing me a bunch, telling me that it was going to be a shit show or whatever. But you know what? It ended up being a lot of fun. And then, you know what? After that, I think I've been bitten by the improv bug. It was so much fun. It was so freeing to be up there in this situation where you don't know what's going to happen next, and you don't know where your scene partner is going to take things, and it's always in a direction that you didn't expect, and you have to be able to react with it and play with it. And that's what they say it is. It's like, come play with us, Mike. And that's exactly what it was. We were having pretend time on a stage in front of a bunch of strangers who paid to see us do it. And we all had a couple of beers too. And you know what? It was a lot of fun. I think I've been bitten by the improv bug. So I'm gonna try and do it as much as I can. I did a couple other little shows with them, with the Cityots. And I hope to do a bunch more. And then and then on top of that, I'm not going to get into too much detail because nothing has been announced, but I'm going to be actually making my acting debut sometime this year, which you know what, I don't even know how to say it because I've never done it before. Like very, very minimal acting skill. Usually it's just when I'm on the desk at Checks trying to act my way through a forecast when I'm not feeling well. Excuse me, drinking a little water there. My voice is getting a little dry. But yeah, I'm going to try it out. And I'll tell you something. This isn't something that I've never thought of before. When I was a boy, when I was, like 14, grade 8, grade 9, something like that, I really wanted to get into acting and get into the arts. I wanted to go to the art school. I mentioned on the podcast before, I think I mentioned it with Megan Murphy in the last podcast. I was just a shitty kid. I really was. I caused a lot of trouble through school, just not really respecting authority a lot and skipping school. And so my parents were like, no, you don't deserve it. And I totally commend them for that. But here I am now, like almost 33 years old, and now I'm finally going to gather up the courage to try something like this. So no details yet as to what is actually going to happen, but and when it's going to happen and who I'm going to be doing it with. But it's coming, and I think it's going to be really interesting. These two projects are really, really, really looking good. I've read both of them, and one of them is a bit part, just a very small part. And the other one is a little bit of a stronger role, and I'm excited for both of them. So stay tuned to the podcast. I'm going to have some people on to talk about this once everything gets finalized and announced, I suppose. What else do I have here? I'm such a loser. I knew I was going to do this thing tonight, so I wrote down some notes of things to talk about. Last one was Cityots-acting with arrow pointing up to top of page and scribble saying, "Congratulations, Cityots," which is a reminder for me to congratulate them. And once again, congratulations to you, Cityots. But moving on, if you don't listen to a lot of podcasts, excuse me, I'm gonna cough here. I've been fighting a nasty cold, which is going on 2 weeks now. It was 2 weeks ago tomorrow. I got this cold that moved into my sinuses, and then now it's just been this lingering ropey phlegm that has just been hanging out in the back of my trachea. And you try and hack it up, and it comes up, and it's like this very thin, stringy, yet very thick and elasticy. It's like I'm swallowing, or I have these mucousy hair bands, hair ties that my wife leaves all over the house that are just lingering inside of my chest and my throat. And I'm trying to cough them up all the time because they tickle, and then they don't come up, and then I just turn this into a dry, hacking, heaving cough that turns into a coughing fit for minutes upon minutes. So I'm drinking my water here. I'm trying to make sure that I can get through this podcast without blasting out your ears with the sound of ropey phlegm shooting around within my chest cavity. What the hell was I talking about? Where the hell was I even going? Oh yes, podcast. Podcasts to listen to. I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts. The first one that I started listening to religiously is no longer around, and it was a video podcast, and it was with Norm Macdonald. If you haven't checked it out, you should really just go give it a watch. It helps if you like Norm and if you understand his humor. A lot of people do not really care for Norm Macdonald so much. It took me a long time to get into Norm and try to understand him. And it wasn't through Saturday Night Live or any of his movies. I started really getting him through his stand-up. And the first time that I really found Norm funny was at the roast of Bob Saget, when he decided to bomb the roast with the worst jokes possible. And it was absolutely hilarious. Check that out on YouTube. But his podcast, which I don't think he's doing anymore. It's called Norm Macdonald Live. He's got some pretty good guests on there, and it was kind of the inspiration for our podcast to do it the video way. But Norm's is infinitely better because that guy's hilarious. Plus, he's got like Adam Sandler and like Tom Green and a bunch of different people and some older guys too. So that's a good one to check out if you haven't checked it out yet. He's got no new episodes, but the ones that are on there are hilarious. And if you're easily offended, you know what? May not be the podcast for you. And I don't condone any of the easily offensive things that they say, so you can't blame me or Checks Television for you watching that podcast. You have been warned. Other good ones, Mark Maron has a pretty decent one. It's called WTF. I think you know what that stands for. And I think he just had a recent interview with Barack Obama. I haven't checked that one out yet. I want to get on top of that, but I feel like Peterborough needs more podcasts, and that would be cool. It's a simple way. You can do what I'm doing right now, is sit in your garage with a microphone, and I'm recording on my laptop right now, and like there are free programs that you can download, like Audacity, which you get a pretty decent sound. You might want to get a little mixer or whatever to go with it, and some decent mics. But just sit there and just record. Talk about what you want to talk about. Do whatever the hell you want. Maybe you get like 3 people to listen to you. Who cares? At least you're having fun, and share it around. Get on Twitter, whatever. I'll support you. I think it would be cool to have more podcasts in town, more stuff to listen to, and more Peterborough focused stuff too. So I think that would be a lot of fun. In terms of other ones, I don't know. I'm at a loss. I listen to a lot of Howard Stern interviews. I think that guy, while some of the bits that he does, and sometimes some of the things that he says I don't really agree with. In terms of being a good interviewer, I think Howard is still at the top right now. And that's better than anyone else, your Barbara Walters or anyone. Howard Stern can get stuff out of people. And he's, the thing with Howard, I think he goes to his therapist like probably once, maybe twice a day. I'm probably exaggerating, but he's gone to his therapist so much. He understands psychology so well that he's able to draw things out of people in these interviews. And I certainly look up to him, and I think his interviews are great. And sometimes they can get a little raunchy or whatever, but you know what? I think Howard is a genius. That's why He's number one. That's why he's number one. And I think I was hearing him. No, it was Bill Burr, who's a comedian, and he does a podcast, which is what I'm doing right now. He just sits alone in his house and records it, and he gets a hell of a lot more listens or views than I do. But and he's a funny guy too. He talks a little bit too much about sports, in my opinion. I'm not a big sports guy. He can kind of make it interesting to me. I'm not really into it so much. He's learning how to fly a plane, which is kind of cool. But his name is Bill Burr, and he was talking about something that's been in the news a lot lately. And what was her name? Rachel, I think it's Dolezal. So she is the woman, I think she was working for the NAACP in the United States. And she was identifying with being black and a black person. She tans her skin a lot, and she gets her hair done, so it's very curly. And then her parents came on CNN, and I don't even know why this blew up. And I guess she's estranged from her parents. She stopped hanging out with them. They were probably racist or something. And her parents went on CNN, and they sold her out. They said, nope. Here are some pictures of Rachel when she was younger. She is clearly a white girl. So all these people got angry at Rachel, and I started thinking about it, and I'm probably wrong here. So, you can hit me up in the comment thread here below on the YouTube thing here or wherever, or you can send me an email and tell me if try and help me with my way of thinking here. So America or Canada or the world is mad at Rachel because she lied. Well, I don't think she necessarily lied about it. She just didn't tell anyone that she was white and was identifying being a black woman. And I guess she was lying because she was telling people that she was, in fact, a black woman, and she was living a different life than her real life and the life that she came from. Now, at the same time, we've got Caitlyn Jenner. So she is a woman, and you know what? Let's not forget that at one point she was Bruce Jenner, the Olympic gold medal winning athlete. And then Bruce started making some changes, and now Bruce is Caitlyn, and Bruce wants to be called Caitlyn, and I'm totally down with that. You know what? You want to do something like that? I think that's awesome. If that's what's going to make you happy, it's good. If that's how I couldn't imagine feeling that way on the inside for my entire life, or even just a portion of my life, or if that I just chipping away at me, thinking, you know what, I want it to be something different, or I want it to be a woman, and you know what I mean, and then actually finally getting the chance to do it and working up that courage and finally reaching your tipping point and saying, you know what, no, I'm going to do it. I commend you for doing that. I think it was funny, Jon Stewart pointing out on the show that Bruce Jenner, people, the tabloids would attack him all the time. And then as soon as he's become Caitlyn Jenner, it's like, well, welcome to the world of sexism and misogyny, because any media outlet focused on, and really anyone that I saw posting things on Facebook or Twitter, or even people showing me things around the office, the only thing that anyone had to comment on was how she looked. Welcome to being a Hollywood starlet, Caitlyn, because that's, I guess, how anyone's going to look at you now. But you know what? No one's mad. That's another great thing that I'm seeing through the media, though. I mean, a lot of people were judging Caitlyn by her looks. Oh, she looks beautiful, or she doesn't, whatever. But a lot of people were very supportive. I was reading tons of supportive articles all over the place, saying that, great for you, Caitlyn. We'll call you Caitlyn and this and that. But for me, it was like, well, here's this Rachel Dolezal, and she just wants to be black. And when she asked in an interview, they asked her, are you white or black? She says, I identify with being black. Is that the same as Bruce Jenner identifying as being a woman? Now, Caitlyn Jenner identifies being a woman. Is it the same? Are they only mad at Rachel because of the deception? Whereas, Bruce Jenner was open and told everyone. But is it also a race thing of a white person wanting to become black? And is it a measure of racism? Why people are mad or not mad? I don't understand it. It's bizarre. Because for me, I would almost feel like I'd want to be, it's a tough one, but like you identify with being black, and so you you dye your skin or you tan your skin and you change your hair and you tell everyone that you're black, and then your parents come out and say, well, you're not black, you're actually white. But I don't know. Like, I don't know if I care all that much. Like, personally, I don't really care at all. Like you can paint yourself whatever color you want and say whoever the hell you want to be. You're a Smurf and you're blue now. Great, I don't care. But like, I'm trying to understand why everyone is so mad, and I guess it's the deception. But that she lied about it, and that now it's been uncovered. But you know what? I think that story's going to go away, and it probably should, because there's a lot of other shit going on around the world right now that probably needs a little bit more attention than this Rachel Dolezal, and I think it's finally fading away. I mean, we've got the Bill C-51 here in Canada, and you know what? There's some interesting things. I want to talk to Miriam Monsef here in Peterborough. Miriam's she's a friend of mine. I met Miriam when I first moved to Peterborough, and you know, very nice girl, and you know, a very lots of integrity. And you know what? She's just a very nice person. Like, I've never walked away feeling from a conversation with Miriam feeling that I've been deceived in any sort of way, or that, you know, she's a phony or whatnot. I really like Miriam, but you know, she started this run for MP with the Liberal Party, and but that was, she started, you know, trying to get the nomination for it before, you know, C-51 passed, and you know, the Liberal Party in support of it. I haven't had a chance to really talk to Miriam about what her views on the bill is like. You know, a lot of people are saying it's an anti-terrorism bill, but, you know, all of our public information is going to be available now. You know, if I went on Facebook and just typed in the word terrorist, or tried to show some journalism from maybe something out of Ukraine, then I might be flagged and I can't fly out of the country. So, you know, you can't talk about it. You can't say anything. You got to be super careful. Is this the way that we really want to live? Are terrorists really coming to Canada? Is this happening? So I want to talk to Miriam about that, because I think it's interesting, and I think it's certainly going to play up to something in the election. But is it really? Because traditionally Peterborough is very PC conservative, except on the Jeff Leal side of things. As the MPP, he's been there for a long time. But you know, is it going to be down to Skinner? And, well, if Skinner gets in, is it going to be PC versus Liberal? NDP is having a huge rise. We had a big rise in the NDP down in Alberta. Is that going to carry over? Is Dave Nickel the guy? I don't know. These are all good questions. So I've decided that I'm going to have each and every one of them on the podcast to talk about the future of Peterborough and why they should be the leader. And I think it's going to be interesting, because my political views are a little bit different than most people's, and they don't really fall in line with the way that our government currently works. I don't really like the way it works. I don't like one party being in charge. I don't even like minority government. I prefer kind of a collectivist thing. I think it would be nice to have every party involved, everyone at the table with equal power and equal rights. And you know what? More voting, more public opinion, and yeah, a little more fairness out there, and a little less politics, and a little less being a scoundrel. And speaking of being a scoundrel, I had a mind-altering, a mind-blowing event today, scouring the web for information on a great, how many greats? Great. Yeah, so 4 greats, I believe. Grandfather of mine by the name of Hector Louis Langevin. Now, this guy is he's from Quebec, and he was a career politician in the 1800s and into the early 1900s. I think he passed away. I think he was born in 1826, passed away in 1906. So he lived, you know, a ripe old 80 years, which is a long time to live back then. So, you know, he had to be pretty crafty. This guy, he held a million different titles in the Canadian government and in the Quebec government as well. He was Secretary of State for Canada, a bunch of different things. But it turns out he was also a father of Confederation for Canada. He's one of the guys. His name is on it. There's a Langevin Street or Boulevard in Calgary, and there's like the Langevin Block in Ottawa. Yeah, so a pretty important guy for shaping the face of our country. And apparently I'm related to him on my grandmother's side. Now, there are some things about this guy that I don't really know how much I like about him, which is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of messed up reading into this. I wish I hadn't, but apparently Hector Langevin, he got into some misgivings and had some dealings with some of the voting things that he did. I guess they had some election in maybe it was Rivière-du-Loup in Quebec, where the other guy who's running against didn't think he was playing fair, so they had to go back and have a by-election. But it ended up Hector winning anyways and then losing out another time. But one of the things that really struck me, I did not like reading this one bit, is that Hector apparently was pivotal and had a large role in establishing the native residential schools, which I personally believe, well, first of all, I want to say that I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to say something in ignorance. On Chex Television, we've had lots of guests from Trent University and from Curve Lake to come up and talk about residential schools and to talk about Aboriginal life throughout the last few centuries as well as up to now. And it's a subject that I've been very interested in and trying to educate myself more in. But the residential schools and the way that they went down, and the way our government handled it, and the way that it's being handled now is certainly a big smear on our country and a black mark, and something that we're not dealing with and not really talking a lot about. And they were pretty disgusting. And apparently, my great grandpappy Hector Langevin had a role in actually bringing these things about. And there's some, you know what, I'm sitting here with my laptop. There's some line, if you go to his Wikipedia page, let me guess, the internet's down? Yeah, great. If you go to his Wikipedia page, he said something, and I'm, this is not a direct quote, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of, the only way that you can assimilate the native children to our culture is by taking them away from their parents. If you let them live with their parents, then they might learn to read and write with us, but then when they go home, they will still be savages. And that was a quote, paraphrasing a quote of what came out of my great grandpappy's mouth. And that's disgusting. And I don't know, it doesn't really make sense for me to apologize for what he did, because I don't know Hector Langevin, and I think he's separated by like a century, so I don't think he's really had an effect on my life over 100 years, more than 100 years, really. Maybe he has in some way. I'm sure he has, because by doing that, I'm living where I'm living, and I was brought up in where I was brought up, and the chain of events that happened through there. So maybe I am sorry that he did that, but you know what? It was a real eye opener there, and I think it's going to inspire me to learn more about what happened with those residential schools, and what we can do now to try and help, because there's still problems. There's still things that are going on, and then the last one was shut down in the 90s. It's a disgusting thing, and everyone should look more into it. So stay tuned to the podcast, because I actually have a fella who is on Chex Television who works at Trent University, and I think he lives down in Baileyboro, somewhere around there, and he's going to be coming on to the podcast, and we're going to be talking all about the residential schooling system and the scars that are still lingering around today. On top of that, I decided that I was going to delve into another person who I don't think I'm related to. I used to lie to kids when I was growing up and said that I was, and I think it wasn't necessarily a lie. I think it was my dad told me that it was true, and he was lying just to be a jerk, because he loved to lie to me and mess with me when I was a kid. But there's this guy who was born in Chicago. His name is Whitcomb Judson. And Whitcomb, by the way, was a name I suggested to my wife to name my child. It was shot down immediately. So was Rudiger. Rudiger was another name I liked. Apparently Ruddy Juddy is not a good nickname for a kid. So, but Whitcomb Judson, inventor of the zipper, or what would soon be known as the zipper. He invented something called the clasp lock. And he did it a long time ago. And eventually it turned into the zipper. But he's credited with the invention of the zipper, with getting that patent. He was an inventor, and the funny thing is that aside from the zipper, he was really an inventor of things that did not work and were ultimate failures. But as they always say, you must fail before you succeed. So that's exactly what he did, although he didn't really make any money on it because it became the Zipper long after he was dead. And I don't think any of his family made money on it. And I'll tell you one thing, I haven't seen a cold, hard penny from any Zipper royalties yet. And I'm a little pissed off about it. So I think it means that I'm probably not related to the guy. But I'm trying to find any positivity back in my family, folks. It's hard, and that's what I'm trying to do. So, yeah, Whitcomb Judson, inventor of the Zipper. Maybe I'm related to him. Maybe I'm not. I'm going to say that I am probably not related to Whitcomb Judson, the maker of the Zipper. Well, so now it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm 45 minutes into this podcast. Sorry, I'm going to cough again. Oh, disgusting. That is just awful. The ropey, just coagulated phlegm goo is just shooting out of me at this point. And the worst part is that, I got nowhere to spit. So you know where that's going. That's disgusting. Coming up on future podcasts, what do I got? What do I got coming up? Oh, Dan and Luke. Dan Smith and Luke Foster. They're both Cityots, and they become fast friends of mine. These guys are good fellas. I had them on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Maybe actually it was longer than that. Maybe closer to a month ago. And so they came on, and we did this wonderful podcast. And it was really a funny podcast. We had a few beers in us, and I actually went toward, I think it was at the 40-minute mark, right around now. I went to open a beer with an opener, and for some reason, I guess the cap was like glued onto the top of this beer bottle. When I went to pop it off, the entire top of the bottle like just cracked right off, and then got stuck in my hand, and I started bleeding like a pig, a stuck pig, or a stuck tofu monkey, whatever the hell you want to say. I was bleeding all over the place. And so that was a lot of fun. We finished up the podcast, and then I went to edit it. My computer crashed, and I lost the podcast. And so I've been begging and pleading with these very busy, talented men to come back and do my podcast here, because they have a podcast, and I have not missed an episode yet. And I was really hoping that we could blend podcasts, and I was on their podcast twice, and so they have to be on mine at least once, twice. You guys will love listening to these guys because they're hilarious. I love the way they wax on and off of each other, but mainly when they wax on each other. They're hilarious. So I'm hoping this weekend coming, I'm going to have Dan and Luke back into the garage to do the podcast. I'll cut my hand again just to make sure that we can capture the true effect of what we had going before. And I think that we've put enough time in between the interview until when we do it next weekend that it's not going to be weird. Not like it was with Megan Murphy, where we had a problem with the podcast and she had to come back and do it again. And no, it wasn't weird. Megan Murphy is an absolute gem. Great person. I met her years and years ago when I started working at Pine Ridge Broadcasting, now owned by My FM. They've come in and bought it. So if anyone doesn't know this, the Star 93.3, 107.9 The Breeze, and Magic 96.7 have all been bought up by a company called My FM that has about 20 radio stations in Peterborough. They already owned the sports talk channel 90.5, which is already in Peterborough. So now they own 4 stations in the market, and that's more than anyone else. So they've got a pretty good share. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with it, and I really hope that they keep everyone that they have there in place, because there are a lot of great people who work for the Pine Ridge Broadcasting Company, well now at My FM, and a few of them are my friends. So I hope they really stick around, because they're a bunch of good people. But I'm hoping to have them on, and then I'm going to have a special guest. Not this next one, but the one after. I got this buddy named Eddie, who's a real jerk. And if you heard that, Eddie, you know you're a jerk. You always have been, and I love you for it. And but he's a real jerk, but a really intelligent, nice person who volunteers his time to go and help people in other countries. He's been living in Sierra Leone for a while now, and he was there during the Ebola outbreak, which is crazy. And then he was So he's there, and he was helping out with the Ebola outbreak, doing whatever he can, trying to find a job. And then once Ebola came, all these international companies pulled out of the area because they were worried about it. And so there were no jobs to be had. And anyways, he ended up making his way back to Canada. He gets to Canada. He's got malaria. And then Canada thinks he has Ebola. They lock him up for like 22 days or something and won't let him out. And public health is, I don't know, maybe going to try and make him pay for it. It's a crazy, crazy story. Well, anyways, Eddie's in Canada right now, and he's going to be heading back to Peterborough with some NGO that he's working with, and he's going to be heading back to Africa, to Sierra Leone, to go work with these people and volunteer his services and do what he does. But before he does that, he's going to be coming by Peterborough. I'm having him on Checks TV to do an interview, and then he's going to come do the podcast. Checks TV, the interviews are great. The only issue there is they're only about 6-7 minutes long, so we'll get like a full hour, and you can experience the true Eddie. And he loves heavy metal, and he's a bit of a jerk. So that'll be a fun podcast to do. And in other podcasts, people I want to get on the podcast. If you can think of anyone in Peterborough that you'd like to have talk with me on the podcast, just throw it in the comment section or send me an email, whatever. I'm loving it, because the coolest thing about Peterborough so far is that like I'm at no shortage of people to talk to, and there are more people I want to talk to as well. Another guy I'd love to interview because he's had a crazy career is Washboard Hank. And I don't know if you know Washboard Hank. God, you have to know Washboard Hank if you live in Peterborough. The guy is a Peterborough legend. Washboard Hank, I've met him a couple of times, seen him play a bunch of times over at Spanky's, which is my favorite bar in town. And he was playing one of their backyard things for Oktoberfest. He does it every year. And I've got word he's going to be playing something big this year in Peterborough as well. And so Washboard is a very talented guy, hilarious musician. His Oktoberfest stuff is amazing. Those songs are great. But you know what? He's met a lot of people. He's done a lot of cool stuff. And, he's traveled all over the place. So I'd love to have Hank on. Hopefully he'll bring his guitar, or he can even bring the kitchen sink that he plays and come play us some tunes, and then talk a little bit about all of his travels and all the people he's met and why he still plays music and how the hell he gets his face to make the faces that he makes. Like, I don't know, man. The guy has got a rubber face. He can just look like such a goofy guy, a hilarious guy. So that's the next thing that I'm going to want to do is having him on. If you guys have any suggestions, hit me up. If you ever have any suggestions or things you don't like, I know Rick, I think, keeps posting, when is everything going to get on iTunes? And where's your RSS feeds? Where are all these things that I need so I can better hear it? And you know what? I hear you. We're total jerks. I was posting these things on SoundCloud before. I stopped doing that, and then it's just been on YouTube. But apparently, the podcast is going to be on iTunes. Evan Holt, who is co-founder of PTBOCanada with Neil Morton, has been working to get these things on iTunes and developing RSS feeds. So it's going to make it way easier for you guys to download. You don't have to kill all of your data or whatever the hell. A lot of people like to listen to this when they're at the gym or when they're running or doing the menial tasks to try and make their bodies look a little bit more presentable when they go to work or go down to the beach. And if you want to do that, then do that. Eventually, it's going to be on iTunes. I keep saying it's going to happen. I don't even know what the hell's happening. I got to talk to Evan. So yeah, eventually this damn thing is going to be on iTunes, and it's going to be easier for you to get. But you know what? I don't even care how many people listen to this. You know, 2 people could listen to this podcast, 3 people, 1,000 people, whatever. It's just fun to do. It's cathartic, and that's why I'm saying more people should do these podcasts. I probably shouldn't say that, because then we're going to get a saturated podcast market. But no, go out there. If you start a podcast, I'll have you on my podcast. It'll be a lot of fun, and we can talk about whatever the hell it is you do out there. But I've been really happy with the way things have gone. This is 22 episodes, 22 hours of talking and blithering on and on and on. And, we've had some pretty good guests, and we're going to continue to have some more. But once again, super sorry that the podcast is so late. It really shouldn't be coming out on a Wednesday, but here it is. Just know that I stayed up until 1 o'clock in the morning doing this damn thing just to make sure that it got out to you guys, because I loves ya and I thanks ya for listening to me ramble on and on and on. And once again, you can tell me if what your thoughts are on this Rachel Dolezal thing in comparison and juxtaposed with. Let's go back over the podcast. Talk to me about that, Rachel Dolezal. My feelings about her. Like, I don't know how to feel about it. I think it's weird. Between her and Caitlyn Jenner, are people just mad at her because she lied, or are they mad at her because she's trying to be black when she's white? I don't know. Let me know. And also, should I be apologizing for Hector Louis Langevin? Is that my fault? I don't think so, but I still think it's despicable. And I think that more awareness needs to be raised about these residential schools. And that is something that we will be tackling on the podcast. That wraps it up. Also, I just wanted to throw out there once again, thank you very much to my sponsor, Ben Van Veen. That guy's got a smile that has quite the sheen. If you're selling a house, you won't be in between Ben Van Veen and a rock at a hard place. I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say. All I know is if you're looking to sell your house or you want to buy a house, get in touch with Ben Van Veen at benvanveen.realtor. That's BENVENVEEN. .realtor, and he'll hook you up. That does it for podcast 22. Tune in to the next one, which is coming next week. Goodbye.